Welcome to a brand new episode of Brainstorming. You guys thought you would get rid of us? Nah, we're just starting here. We're just starting. We're not going to be replaced by AI yet. But my friend Henrique, great to see you again, my friend. And it's great to be back for another discussion. And we had a great reception on our first episode. And now we promise we're going to be a little bit more focused. The first episode was just like talking about ourselves, something that we don't like to do that much, but now we're going to really focus on business. But how are you this week?
Doing well. Always good to see you, my friend. Always good to be here to talk with you. And using AI, we've been narrowing our focus, streamlining our operations, optimizing this podcast so we are on target, on point, meeting deliverables, and all the other jargons and business cliches you can think of.
Yeah,
Made it up on the fly. Wasn't my best businessman impersonation, but I did what I could. I'll ask ChatGPT next time to create one for me that seems more natural and casual, but funny and engaging. And he can also help me do a more formal and professional looking one.
it's funny you say that because you chose a great academic paper that we're going to talk at the end of the episode. But there was an academic paper that was released lately and generated a lot of buzz from Apple, and it was just a couple of days before WWDC, and it was called "The Illusion of Thinking." And I read it and I summarized it. And when we talk about like I would call it the illusion of efficiency in our case. Like we are using AI to create the illusion of efficiency, but the whole thing of illusion of thinking, it's funny when we talk about creating narratives because they've just been late to the game. There is no excuse anymore. Like Apple has dropped the ball on AI so far, and they released a
Yeah.
paper where they again, every time, and we're going to discuss, and it's one of our things here, we're going to discuss a lot of different papers because we think a lot of innovation is coming from academia. But never forget that a lot of papers, they will have a bias based on who's paying the bill.
Oh, yeah.
And the whole idea with the paper from Apple was to criticize the new reasoning models and finding examples where the reasoning models were not delivering the results, were consuming too much tokens, a lot of tokens, were hallucinating. And yes, and the whole concept of testing models on puzzles and not on tests that are like that can just the just the LLM models will know the results, and they will learn how to answer to solve those problems. And when you talk about puzzles, it's a little bit different. But at the end of the day, Apple was just finding a way out to like a couple of days later say, "Hey, we don't have anything yet on AI. We're being conservative." So that is something, especially us, we're going to talk a lot about academic papers. Never forget to take a look on the source. Never forget to analyze like how narrow the scope of the experiment, or how narrow the scope of the study is, because who's paying the bill always has a voice.
Yeah. And Apple I mean, they couldn't be the only ones to have dropped the ball, right? They had to find other companies that are dropping the ball before they acknowledge that they've dropped a bowling ball. Um, it might have hit their feet, um, and it might have hurt. But they definitely have pain points, and they definitely are paying the bill. Not that they don't have the money; they do have that in cash, a lot of it. But it's another issue.
And
Uh,
I don't know about you, but I'm saying that as an Apple fanboy. I love Apple
Me
products.
too.
So
Yeah,
okay.
I have a MacBook, an iPhone, iPad. I don't have an Apple Watch because I really enjoy watches, like using wearing watches. And if I get an Apple Watch or any other sort of smartwatch, I'll never wear a regular watch again. So it's literally the reason I haven't gotten any. But yeah, I am an Apple fanboy. But that just gives us more, um, not more power, but more, um, kind of more rights to criticize them, because you're criticizing
Exactly.
them, not as a not a pure outsider who wants to see them, I don't know, suffer and struggle. Um, you
No,
know,
we don't want failure. We're talking from a place of love. We love the brand,
exactly,
and we want to see
exactly.
them prosper.
Yeah. But you mentioned the how they said the other AI models or the LLM models were not working well and failing to solve puzzles. And I mean, they do have a point. We talked about the studies that showed that 70 to 80% of AI projects fail to deliver on what they promise. And typically, you think when you look or when you hear about AI, you think of something more efficient and more effective, delivering a higher quality than you would without AI. You think of AI only augmenting the solution or the service, but that shows that it's not. We talked about in the first episode. It's not a magic wand. It's not a magic word that you throw in and makes everything better. If you solely rely on AI will solve this for me, it'll it'll definitely, I'd say it'll definitely under deliver, and you know, or fail to deliver on what they promise.
Now that's the point, and that's what we want to talk about today. Great segue, by the way. Just link we linked Apple to talk about like probably one of the biggest issues when we, because again our goal here is to try to connect the world of business strategy and academia. And when we talk about business strategy, and when you talk about the money that is being invested in AI solutions, and so far, and you can look at McKinsey, you can look at Gartner, you can look at PMI, you can look at whatever institution you want to. Most of the surveys with executives show that the investments they're not generating the results the companies expected in probably 60, 70, 80%. Just the number will differ, but we're looking at over 50% still second semester of 2025. So uh,
Mhm.
why is that happening? That's what we want to discuss here today, because uh, yeah, I will overuse a jargon here, but yes, AI hype.
Yeah.
Everyone has the voice coming from above. So the CEO, the board is saying, "Hey, we need everybody's doing AI. We need to do AI." But when, like, I come from the software world, every time you just focus on the software and not on what the software is going to solve, you're throwing money away. And I have my little inside joke that the best marketers in the world are the marketers from ERP companies, because they convince you that it's the same thing. Like I make the analogy: if you're going to buy a luxury car, you will have to wait probably 6 months to a year for the car to start working. You will pay like 500 grand on a car, and it's okay. You just wait 6 months and a year, and then it will start working. ERP companies convinced their customers that it's okay. Yeah, you implement it, you'll spend millions of dollars, and it's okay to wait a year for it to work. It's just how it works. So
Yep.
sometimes I think when we look at how companies, how the IT areas, how the business areas are investing in AI solutions, they're kind of being passive the same way. It's like, oh, we're not getting the results yet. But I think there is a better way of doing it. And that's what we want to discuss here today.
Yeah, and you talked about the lack of a focus, a strategy, and it's a real example. Not naming names and companies, but um, a company whose communications team had as one of their goals for 2025 use more AI. There was a department goal: use more AI. Well, first, the basics of any
Why?
goal. Why? Yes, and the basic of any goal in any company in the world is smart. Everyone who learns, who grows in the business world and outside of it, but like related to the business world, knows that you have to have smart goals. I actually forgot what smart stands for, but measurable, actionable, realistic. I forgot the S. And
Tangible,
then timely. Uh,
timely, very good. Yeah,
timely.
I
Yeah, I
forgot the
forgot
S.
the S. But oh, specific. Use more AI. It's not specific. It's measurable if you decide to measure by times you ask ChatGPT a question. Uh, and oh, not realistic, relevant. R is relevant. And it's not relevant unless you have specific goals, you have deliverables. So yeah, use more AI in the communications team meant because it's the easiest thing for everybody. Let's ask ChatGPT. You write a draft and you ask ChatGPT to make it better, or you ask ChatGPT to write a draft and then you see if you can make it better, and so it goes.
Yeah, it's the whole shiny new toy syndrome. Like people just need to have it. They need to have it, and they don't know why. And I always go back to the point that uh, people see results in their personal use, and they think they're going to see the same results in an
Hmm.
enterprise use, and it just
Hmm.
doesn't work that way. It really doesn't, because you have total control over your personal data and thoughts, and I'll consider our thoughts to be data as well. So every time you're using ChatGPT, you are controlling the conversation to a level, because you, the owner of all your data, that's formatted in a way that you can communicate. And we can get into prompt engineering one day, how to better communicate, but you have control of all the information. When you look at the corporate world, you don't. You just don't, unless you are probably a top 1% company that has like a completely established data lake with all framed information and everything ready to be consumed by these LLM models. Uh, like 99% of the time, you're just not in that position. And we're talking about small and medium-sized businesses, definitely really close to 100%. So you think you're just going, oh, I'm getting great results in my personal life, or even as a isolated professional, you're getting results. As you said, writing a draft, creating some, like, I don't know, a social media post, or creating a marketing plan. You have to look at it completely different when we look at how to invest, because you are probably using it free or investing $20 a month for your personal use. It doesn't work that way when we talk about enterprise.
Yeah.
You have to consider all the costs involved. You have to consider all the risks involved. You have to consider everything that could affect your brand and your business and your people. We always got to go back to people that could affect your people. How afraid are they to losing their jobs and all that. So the whole idea of just oh, I need to have AI in my company, but not focusing on why. And you already used the keyword that we're going to talk a lot about in this episode, that's pain point. Unless you find a pain point, there's no way that your AI investment will bring a positive ROI.
That's I you're doing the perfect lead up to what I was gonna say, and it's not planned. But you need pain points, and you need pain points that you understand and you have the data around it. AI works better when you're the expert and use AI to help you. So if you're a company that relies on logistics and you have a pain point in that logistics or in the supply chain or in the, I don't know, efficiency of that, or storage, whatever it is, but if that is your area of expertise, then AI will help you greatly. And you probably have a lot of data and know exactly what is wrong and you're struggling to solve. which is different than I can attract customers to my company. Let's use AI to attract customers. You don't know what the pain point is because the pain point is not attracting customers. The pain point is something underlying that. Is it the quality of your services? Is it the quality of your communications? Is it the strategy of how you're communicating your service? Whatever it is, I'm creating like generic examples, but the one I mentioned in the first episode, Klarna, the payment services company, they decided to replace all their customer service with a AI chatbot, and thought that would solve the issue. It would cut costs. It cut costs in a way that made all treatment impersonal, and they had to reverse course in a year or two. Um, in another way, when Netflix, that has 20 years or more of data on customer preferences, right? Since they had the movie rental, shipping to your house business, when they decided to use AI to improve their algorithm with 20 years of data to feed into it, they created the best algorithm in any streaming service by a lot. They they're already the leading company in that, and of course, probably no one in the world has as much data as Netflix, except for maybe Amazon, because then everyone uses Amazon, and Google, because Google knows what you're looking at. But except for those, some very specific companies, no other company in the world can have that amount of data because they get say passive data, right? They passively accumulate data, but when you feed 20 years of data into an algorithm and ask them for customer preferences, then yes, it will work beautifully. Um, no normal company, not a behemoth, will have 20 years of massive data. But that's all to say, when you have data and you know the right problem, the exact problem, not the symptom, but the problem, or not the collateral effect or the outcome, but the problem, then that's when we use AI and we can get in with an AI solution that will actually drive performance or drive, I don't know, revenue, sales, logistics, efficiency, whatever it is. But that only happens when we have the data and we know the what the actual pain point is. Not to repeat that word multiple times. But
Now we're going to repeat that, like we are going to do an SEO thing in this transcription. We're going to repeat pain point probably 1,000 times. Uh, Taking a quick detour here, because and it's not in our notes, but based on our conversation off air, talking about like the person, the effect of people inside a business environment and personal conflict and all that. I think the whole concept of pain points, AI is just another domain where the difficulty of businesses looking at their pain points without trying to make an analogy with blame, because usually when we talk about pain, we want to find an issue, and it's very difficult for companies to actually listen to other stakeholders, even like listening to their employees or listening to the C-board or listening to their customers, because usually pain is related to blame. We want to blame someone. We want to blame, and either because you don't want conflict, or you want to get your you don't want to be the one to be blamed sometimes. So if you're responsible for a process, you don't want that pain point to come up to the surface, because it could mean that you're doing a bad job. So the lack of transparency and honest conversations in business has nothing to do with AI to find the pain points. Like, it's probably in the literature, it's probably something that you can see in your studies, but the
it
whole
comes from way before AI existed.
exactly, like how do you see that, like in your studies, in your research? Because I think AI is, of course, we have to talk about it because it's what people want to hear about nowadays. But the whole concept of pain points is something that's been in the business strategy world for a long time, and there are few answers for it.
Yeah, I think there's very few answers because ultimately those pain points come from human beings, and then uh, you could be the most rational, data-driven businessman in the world, potentially Warren Buffett in that case. You're still a human being, and you have biases, you have beliefs, you have fears, you have a lot of psychological traits that psychologists can't fully understand, because if they could, we wouldn't have a need for psychology anymore, because we would be able to immediately fix every human being right in a, as I use for fingers. Um, so um and that's the origin of it, and that's a lot of what strategy in the literature, the academic research of strategy is about. Well, actually it literally started because of that. I don't think I talked about it in the first episode, have I,
No.
about the original strategy? Okay. So
Come on, professor, bring it on.
but as a quick like overview, the early 1900s, you had all the Ford model and Taylor model of production and trying to optimize production in industries. And you had the view that managers were this kind of a know all, be all, know everything type of person that always has all the information, sits in their desks, and then like carefully plot the best course of action. And obviously, that's not the case, but it's understandable that way back then it would be that. And it kind of falls in line with the fact that you were thinking also of workers as one piece in a machine that just does their work, right? Like automizing the, or not automizing, but streamlining the process, like the Ford model of production, right? You're just like you're putting that one piece the whole day. um, and then the backlash to that didn't go to, well, actually, they're human beings, but it went to human beings don't matter. And let's say from the maybe 30s until the 70s, the prevalent belief was that the company would exist and the human beings were there just, I don't know, to fill their jobs, but totally replaceable. Every human being was fully replaceable and did not affect the outcome. And then in the 70s, this genius professor, researcher, Don Hembrick, who's now at Penn State, still active at like 75 or so, he, through a series of articles, collected data and proved that managers did matter. And that created the current strategy literature. It was kind of the revolution that the people who are in charge do matter. And he, in the 70s, claimed, and it's been more than proven now, that they matter because of their background, their education, their ideology, their values, where they grow up, um, which religion they had, everything in a human being matters, because we're all different and we make different decisions because we don't have full knowledge of the situation. Which was another thing that he ended up proving, was managers will never know everything about a situation. And even if they were to know everything, they would interpret um, things differently based on their own beliefs. So there's a filter that goes from the facts to the perception of people. And that holds true nowadays with anything. So the blame, the AI implementation, anything we talk about in the business world, we always have the filter that goes through, or that goes between the facts and the person in charge.
It's so interesting you're saying that, because when you were talking, in my mind it was like, dude, it's like we're going back to the 70s, because people now think that humans don't matter when you have an AI involved in the decision.
Yeah,
Like we're going back to that
that
time.
is true.
We have to bring this guy back, and like the concept still holds. You need a
Yeah,
human in the loop. You need to have the human perception in this. But to not run away from what is our focus on this episode is basically the whole idea of finding blame and finding a pain point. People have to just get over it. Like, if you don't look for inefficiencies in your process with people to use AI to improve those inefficiencies, you're not going to be able to generate value with AI. I think, in my opinion, is as simple as that.
I agree. I agree. And we talked offline as well about the Amazon news from yesterday, and we said we're not going to be breaking news, but it's more just of an example of what you just said. The Amazon CEO might have been a couple of days ago. He gave an interview to Harvard Business Review saying that AI will definitely replace jobs. AI will improve company efficiency and reduce workforce for a company, and eventually there will be new jobs elsewhere that might even things out. And that's all beautiful. Um, I decided to listen to the interview because I was kind of curious of what his rationale behind it was. And one, he speaks in jargons and cliches the whole time, so nothing of substance, nothing concrete behind it. Well, maybe he has, and he's just hiding through cliches and jargons, but you couldn't see anything. But second, since he took over as CEO from Jeff Bezos in 2021, his main issues are excessive bureaucracy and excessive workforce. He wants to cut bureaucracy and cut the workforce. Amazon went through a reduction last couple of years. Last year, the workforce total number of employees was stagnant. It didn't go down, which leads me to think that he needs to find a new reason to cut employees. And it always looks ugly when you say we're cutting employees to improve efficiency. Next year, we're cutting more employees to improve more efficiency. Next year, well, now we're cutting costs. And next year, well, we're restructuring the firm. And all the business jargons that I use when people decide to have mass layoffs and so he found the shiny new toy, AI. And even better, it's not a human being. He can assign blame to an entity for the future job cuts that he will do. And, it kind of goes to what you said, it goes to the manager beliefs that go behind the actual, like the actions, right? What drives the actions. So
It's
I think,
always the narrative. The example we
yeah,
gave at the beginning with Apple, their narrative, now the Amazon narrative that connects with Anthropic and how they're going to sell that to
exactly.
businesses. So, uh, again, as we said in the first episode, I am more of a believer than Henrique. You guys can notice that already. But you have to pay attention, and you have to try to detect the narrative. And I think it connects well to the next point is, and again, we want to be practical when we talk about pain points. How do you actually figure out your pain points? Because, okay, Henrique and Henrique, you guys are talking about, yeah, AI has to be related to pain points, but how do I find them? And I hate to sound simplistic, but my experience, like when we go inside a company, is just listen,
Oh yeah,
create an environment where someone, and it doesn't have to be a consultant, it can be someone from inside the company, it can be a customer group, it can, but just listen. Because if you spend some hours listening to how the processes work, like get people to explain how the critical processes in your company work, but get different people to listen to it.
Mhm.
I'm definitely not a genius, or I'm not, but I come from the outside. When I sit in a company, I just start asking questions and I start to listen. And I don't come with the answer, because I will never have the answer right away. And I tell people that right away. I will never come with a prefabricating answer. My goal here first is to listen and to figure out with different eyes and with different ears, with my huge head, how how I can help you find out where are the inefficiencies that sometimes data doesn't show.
Mhm.
Sometimes you got to look at the data, but probably sometimes you got to look at it a different way. But sometimes it just comes from experience of the people inside who are working in the processes. So I don't know. Like an example is, oh, our sales conversion rate is too low based on the investments we're making. Why? And then I try to understand what are their sales strategies, what are their marketing strategies, where would AI make sense? Because that's another point. AI isn't the answer for everything. As great as it is, as much as I use it during my daily professional and personal life, sometimes it's just not the answer. Sometimes the answer is automation. Sometimes the
Mhm.
answer is different people. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
just changing people. Again,
Better
getting to
training, better
better training.
instructions.
Sometimes it's not
Yeah.
AI, but if you really want to use AI, you gotta figure out what
Yeah.
is the pain point, what is the critical point, that you have enough data to feed to an AI to bring a better result than you have today.
Yeah. It's a very quick story, also because from 10 years ago, so I'm not gonna remember all the details. Um, but once upon a time, I was a chemical engineer, and I would go as a kind of a technical consultant from my company to refineries that are operating um, the using the equipment from the company I worked in to refine the oil or to treat natural gas before sending out. Uh, and I was in a natural gas plant, and there was some problem that I can't remember, but some problem that was seemingly big that was not converting or treating natural gas the way it was supposed to. So the gas that was going out of the plant to the gas stations or to whatever else the natural gas plant was sending the gas to didn't have the necessary quality. And the engineer was convinced that they have to shut the plant down and restart again, because that's what happens when the quality is bad. You restart everything from scratch, which is a kind of the standard process. And it didn't have AI then, but I also don't know that AI would have found a specific solution unless it was a very specific, or sorry, would have found the specific pain point, unless it was an AI that was designed for natural gas plants that understood how everything worked. But restarting a plant, shutting down and restarting takes weeks, over a month. So I proactivity is important, but you don't have to be proactive every time in your life. Sometimes it's better to wait a little bit and think before acting. So I told him, like, let's take a few days, whatever, to be sure that that's actually the best case. Because if we choose that now, you're losing a month or two of production and hoping that fixes, like when you shut a computer down and turn it on again. Except the computers take minutes, not months. So I told him, let's wait maybe a week, because in the end of the day, if we need to shut down, that week is not going to make a difference. So I was talking to the operators, because operators always know more than the engineer, just like employees in a company that are working on a daily basis with sales, marketing, logistics, any department will always know more than the CEO about that specific pain point, not about how to run the company, but about that pain point, right? So talking with operators, the operators are going on, like, on the field, on the plant, to try to inspect things here and there. And I'm not gonna remember the specific equipment, but also it's not worth it. But what they found was the bottom of a certain tank or a certain reactor or something had water that accumulated in kind of a, it was even in the bottom, it was kind of like a side, like part of it that somehow accumulated water, and going through a cleaning process was not removing that water, which was supposed to, because you can't have water in the natural gas plant. You can't have any. It's like the maximum allowed water like percentage is 0.0005. I don't know. And it had more than that because it was accumulated there, and the kind of purge that they do daily or like frequently was not purging that water because it was kind of in a hidden compartment, let's say, not hidden, but
Mhm.
out of the main path of the purge. And well, they just simply like quickly like bypassed that equipment, manually cleaned the water, removed the water, dried it up, and restarted, and then it worked. There was maybe a day, well, a couple of days looking for a problem, then a day treating it, and it was fixed. So it cost less, it took way less, and if you had used AI, probably the generic answer is going to be, well, quality is bad. We have to restart the plant because the process is not functioning as it should. And you needed an operator who knew that plan really well to know that they had to kind of go with their own set of eyes looking for what could be wrong in a, I don't know how many kilometers wide, miles wide plant that was. Anyway, it wasn't short, but kind of shows how some pain points are not AI worthy, and AI only works if they're very specific and very targeted, which is kind of what we've been saying for over half an hour now in this episode.
But you know what's cool, and I'm going to push back a little bit, is that but it's all about the process of using AI and expanding a little bit about the concept of pain points. Is that if you know how to discuss and to talk with the AI, you can be that operator. You can be
Yes,
the
yes,
one guy who looks at the result
that's true.
of the first prompt and say, no, this wasn't exactly what I was looking for. Let me give you a little bit more details. Ask me for more details. You can also use AI to be a listener. Like, ask me what else I could provide to you to get a better response
That's very
specific
true.
to that pain point. But again, it takes time. It takes a process, and it takes understanding what is the original pain point. That's why I'm saying, like, and doing a little being the salesman here, I think it links perfectly to talk about, and we're going to talk about it every episode until you finally do our survey. But our survey that you will have the link in the episode description, wherever you're listening or watching to this episode. Our goal is to have a questionnaire where we can help you map your pain points. So it is a really long questionnaire. It's around 80 questions. In these 80 questions, there are some questions that will help you figure out what your pain points are. So we're able to give you a free AI blueprint and help and also in our research to be able to understand in our community where companies are in their implementation of AI and to help them better implement AI. So don't forget about our survey. We'll put the link to the landing page in the episode. And it's a great way to help you just in a way that you can do it yourself. It would take you 10 to 15 to 20 minutes, but to help you figure out what your pain points are. And this
Yeah,
wasn't
and
even planned. This wasn't even planned.
you're
This was
right.
a great segment.
Yep. Yes, Rose. And it goes to what we've been talking. You need the data to have an efficient AI model. The data comes from filling a long questionnaire, not two questions, and a three-line prompt. Um, and you need that human input there, the careful input to go find that pain point and drive it there, and you need the expertise. And I agree with you. You could be the operator, but you need the expertise as the operator to get AI where you want them to be, to find that solution for you, right? To use the AI's process, and not process, but processing capacity, that will always be way higher than any number of human beings. But you need to be the one driving that processing capacity, not letting them run and tell you just hit back.
Exactly. Don't just make one prompt or one question. Like actually talk to it and actually try to figure out together. And did like we are going to talk a lot about pain points during our brainstorming episodes, wherever they are, because they are one of the pillars of what we believe is a right framework to implement AI. There is no AI solution unless you find a pain point to apply that solution to. So this is just the start of the conversation, but it is something that we truly believe in, that you need to, again, not only for AI, like for any solution, whether it's technology, whether it's people, whether it's process, you need to, uh, you can't be afraid to look for pain points.
Yeah.
They really will improve your efficiency and your ROI and whatever you want to invest in. So that becomes something really important. And now let's talk about our academic paper of this episode. And Henrique, this was so cool, man. Thanks for
I'm glad.
finding this one out. That's why we pay you the big bucks to find out these really cool articles and these really cool academic papers. But when you send it to me, I'm like, I looked at the title and then I say, okay, let me get a Sunday afternoon to really read it and really absorb it. And I thought it was just awesome. So the name of the paper is Incentives, Framing, and Reliance on Algorithm Advice, an experimental study by Grainer and other researchers. And just to give like a quick overview, it basically was an experiment with 1,500 people where where they separated these people in different groups. And the whole objective was to, the task was to estimate prices of Airbnb rooms or Airbnb places for people to stay in Vienna, in Austria. And then they divided these people in groups where some people had a fixed pay rate that they would receive just for doing the task. Other people had like a tournament style where they would be matched with each other. Whoever had the better estimates would get more money than the other. And some of the people had the help of an AI agent, let's call it that way, that would help them estimate the price. And it was not a perfect agent, and that was the cool thing about the episode. So it had like a 30% deviation on the results. So that's reality. That's what I thought it
Yeah.
was really cool about the study. That's reality. So you're not really sure if you should trust or not the result, especially when we talk about critical tests. And they also had a little caveat where for some people they would tell them that the AI was combined with human expertise, with experience in the subject. So I think that's it, right? I think if you look at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
test, that was the concept of the study.
Mhm.
And what did you think of the results? What did you think of how they structure this?
Yeah, so I loved it. I thought it was fascinating, and I was there even more for the AI part than the pay part. But I think both were very interesting. And then what in the findings, I guess, kind of makes sense to me that the when the pay was performance based, so it was either the tournament style or just based on that individual's own performance. But when it was varying, they relied more on AI, um, because they knew they had to do better, right? Well, if it's a fixed pay, well, I want to do well, but if I don't, I'm getting the
I
same
still have
money.
my salary.
I still have my salary at the end of the day. Yeah. So it kind of shows that when it matters for you personally, right? Financially, in this case, you'd rather have AI by your side because you're using it and relying on it more. But also, they found that when the AI was trained as human augmented, so combined with human expertise, then you rely on it even more, which also makes sense, because now you're not using just a model, you're using a model plus an expert, which, well, in that case, they were manipulating to see what people would prefer, but they prefer it because it's probably the best combination, and also because that's what they want to deal with. It shows that in the end of the day, you don't want to be dealing with just a cold AI, right? If you're, I mean, not us talking to ChatGPT, but I'm like talking about a company, right? And you're making decisions, business decisions. You're making decisions that affect your life, your employee's life, your company's life. And in that case, you'd rather have a mix of AI and human expertise than just purely an AI algorithm spitting out like results and solutions at you.
And
Um,
I think it depends on the task, but I was making an analogy of like real world analogy with what I see, and when we talk about RAG systems and basically using company data to expand the result, or to guide the result of an LLM model. So the most simple, like the simplest example, if you have a knowledge base and you want to use an AI agent to improve your knowledge base, you're usually going to look first at your software data, or at your process data, or at your methodology data, because that is always the core of the answer. So that, comparing to this study, that would be the human expertise. That will be the augmentation part of it, and it will definitely it will make people who are using that, the analysts, the people who actually need that information, it will make them trust it more, because they know it's coming from an expert, and it's using the power of the LLM to format that answer, to give a different perspective, to improve communication. But this combination of human expertise with the LLM increases people's trust and will to use the tool. And that's important, because when we talk about ROI of an AI investment, you need people to use it. Because if people don't trust it, you will not have an ROI on it. So that's what I thought it was really cool of this study, this compare, like this analogy of looking at these different groups, looking at just AI, looking at augmented AI,
mhm.
having different incentives, pay incentives, fixed pay, performance pay. So all these are variables that will impact how people use the AI solution you implement in your company.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And the other thing is they talk about how the human boosted AI also reduces algorithm aversion,
Yes, very
right?
good.
So it's not just that people rely on it more. I mean, in the end of the day, it is, but it's also that they will be less averse, right? You always have, in anything new, in this case, AI, you always have, say, people who are AI friendly and people who are AI averse. And that is true for anything in life. Like whenever there's a new implementation, you always have people who are friendly to it and who are averse to it. And even old things, I guess, doesn't even need to be a new, like a new toy or a new trend. Um, but in this case, I thought it was interesting that it works for. Well, my understanding is that they show that this will work in general, which means both for AI friendly and AI averse users, they'd rather have human boosted AI than pure AI.
And this study focused on adoption. That's really important. It focused on
Yes.
adoption and being adverse of it, or willing to use it. If you look at the results of the estimates, and we're talking about a test that's kind of complex to estimate a price. So the
Yeah.
results of who used AI and who didn't use AI were not statistically significantly
Hmm.
different, but again, that just shows the opportunity to improve the algorithm,
Yeah.
but and it actually shows that there is always a path. Because one thing when we talk about like a lack of ROI of AI investments is people just lose patience. They don't have the patience to
Hmm.
improve the algorithm, to improve the process, to improve the prompt, to improve the model, to fine tune the model. Like they just want results, and it doesn't work that way. The same way when you hire a new person, really probably it's not like they're going to deliver results right away. You need to have the same concept when you
Yeah.
hire an AI solution, when you contract an AI solution.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Totally agree. Yeah, I have nothing else to add to that. But yes, it's at the end of the day, an AI solution is like a new person in the team, um, that you
Train them, train them.
have to train. In the beginning, you have to give very specific instructions, explain how it's done, use your expertise to bring them up to speed, and have them then have them deliver value.
Exactly, exactly. Very cool, my friend. Thanks for bringing this up. And whoever is following us, our goal, and I think we define now we have a time frame. We're going to release like a full episode every 2 weeks, like a conversation, full conversation that we're going to have about a topic in a specific academic paper. But we're also going to do some experiments and try to generate some shorter content, talking about specific academic papers. So, because again, there's so much stuff coming out of academia. So, if you look at our feed, if you look at our channel, you probably, hopefully, you will find, and let us know if you like it or not. Give us your feedback. But we're going to, since we're only going to have this full discussion every 2 weeks, we want to have new content every week. So it will be shorter content. It will be specific to academic papers because we really think there is a gap in the AI content world talking about academic papers. So if you like the 50-minute to an hour content, that's us every 2 weeks. And if you like the 10 to 15-minute, we also have that every 2 weeks too. Right.
Yep,
And
exactly.
again, based on your feedback, we can change that. We're probably just not going to do it like a full conversation every week yet, unless we get a sponsor. Then that's a whole new deal.
Yep, exactly.
and
So if
Apple,
that's who you
Amazon,
are,
we will not criticize you anymore if you pay us. So
no, no, none of you. Just name your company and come sponsor us, and you got full, unbiased praise from now on.
yeah, very good, my friend.
Always good
Hiki,
talking to you.
awesome,
Hope it
awesome.
was fun, it was engaging, it was helpful.
Yes,
And yeah, we'll keep them going.
and everyone listening, give us your feedback, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with another cool discussion and another academic paper. And look for the shorter content as well. Have a great week. See you later. See you in the next episode. Bye.
See ya.